Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another special doubleheader. Where on the first half of today's video, we are going to focus on our upcoming barrel pick. Checking one off the bucket list. You know that we love K. Luke here on the channel, and we got the opportunity to sit down with the owner, Jonathan Misano, back in October to do this pick where this is the one that emerged. I'll get more into the stats and story behind this one as we get deeper into the video. And then for the second half, I've got a sample here to live crack with everybody of K. Luke. This one is batch 14. So let's explore more K. Luke, capping off an amazing 2025 that we have had with this brand. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right, so what we're going to get into first is going to be the pick, K. Luke Single Barrel Bourbon, cask strength, coming in at 116.2 proof and finished in Sauternes. This one is a collaboration pick between Dusty Dan Whiskey Reviews, Drifting Drams, hello again, whiskey friends, and Bourbon of the Week. The same team that brought you that great old Dominic pick, the High Rye Drifter, just a few months ago. So let me pour this one out here so it can sit out while we're chatting, and then we can get into the tasting notes. And for this one, if you're interested in it, be sure to follow us on Patreon or on our Facebook group, Instagram, but this will be coming out through Shared Pour in the near future. So when we did this tasting, Jonathan Misano, who is the master blender and the co-owner of K. Luke, invited us to Louisville knowing that we were in the area and asked if we were interested in doing a single barrel. And immediately I knew the answer was yes, for a couple different reasons. We love many of the K. Luke releases. If you were to look behind me, there are 8 K. Lukes on this shelf right here. And thus far, I've probably bought in somewhere around 10 or a dozen. And these aren't media sample. These are things that I laid my own money on. And earlier in the year, Jonathan did a round of single barrels, and I was fortunate enough to get my hands on quite a few of them, including the one 21090 picked that was a rye finished in sherry. But I also got some from Liquor Barn, which were bourbons finished in Armagnac and Madeira. So I had a lot of experience going in on what these finished K. Lukes had to offer and was quite excited to be able to sit down with Jonathan and do a whole flight of different finishes. Now, I will say during the tasting, this was probably one of the most difficult picks that we've had to do, because what was apparent to me immediately as we went through the 6 samples is that the base blend that Jonathan created before finishing these each and finishing casks must have been just off the hook good, because every single sample we had that same amazing base to it, which then turned into trying to evaluate the influence of the different finishing casks versus trying to pick out, well, what's got the better mouthfeel? What's got the better finish? What's got the better mid palate? All of them on the technical side had all of these strong points. So it really did come down to how well did that finish go with that blend. And the one we ended up picking stood out from the start. On first sip, it made some in the group make some noises out of the delight of it. Even Darrell immediately laughed. It was just like, well, that's the pick. We can just stop here. We didn't even taste through the rest of them yet. So if you ever go on a barrel pick with me, I try really hard to get everybody around the table communicating about every single sample. I mean, really talk it through, over communicate it, leave no cards on the table. That is how we play it. And I very diligently tried to facilitate a conversation to all of the other samples. And Darrell was just like, why are we doing this? It is number 3. We are picking number 3. Why are we doing this? But we still diligently went through everything. And despite all that, number 3 was the winner. It was love on first sip. We tried to combat it against everything else, and it was just adored by the whole group. Now, the surprising part of that story, though, is when Jonathan revealed the different finishes. I think he had a sherry in there. I think he had a cognac in there for us. You know, I am a huge sherry guy. And out of all the finishes we selected Sauternes. And for whatever reason, maybe it is just what we've been exposed to, but I would say Sauternes and Calvados are 2 of my least favorite finishes. In general, I tend not to gravitate towards it, though maybe this was more because of what I've just been exposed to versus what this category has to offer. I know when I say that to some whiskey friends who are into Irish and Scotch, they just look at me sideways like, dude, Sauternes is awesome. What are you talking about? So we are going through our first wine finished bourbon, and it happens to be Sauternes. If you got any more questions about that experience, let me know in the comments. But I think that was enough setup. Let's get into what this thing tastes like and why we love it so much. I mean, I am just utterly in love with this nose. I think what surprises me off the bat is despite the finish, it actually leads with this dark oak and chocolate. But then as you get past those darker notes, it is contrasted so brilliantly with this honey, creme brulee, and then that delicate white grape that you would expect off of this finish. It's the creme brulee and the grape though, almost like if you had a creme brulee that had like a honey coating on top of it that got charred. And then as you wait a little longer with it, some like toffee notes start coming out. And I swear there's even this like distant sherry in the back that might be from the underlying bourbon trying to shine through too. So the oak, the chocolate, the toffee, the grape, the creme brulee. I mean, lots of different layers that you can sit there and pick apart on this one. This is a nose that I can spend quite a bit of time with. And tell you what, I knew this nose was going to be killer. This is like the original sample from that tasting. It's empty and I've been opening it up and smelling it just to get some of the remnants there. And what's in the glass now is even better than what I expected it to be. And I expected the nose to be one of the highlights of this particular pour. Fortunately for me, it's only going to get better. So let's get into the palate experience. I mean, first, as to be expected from anything that we are going to be associated with picking, I mean, it is oily and it's going to have this beautiful, beautiful mouthfeel. But you can just see how much damage and how many rings are getting left around this glass each step of the way as I slowly rotate it. Oh man, I can already tell this is going to be a fantastic tasting with everybody. This is hitting me in all the right spots today. Up front, you initially get that delicate grape, but it is side by side with that honey and that creme brulee that I mentioned on the nose. That really is the first thing that you get as you let it sit on the tongue a little bit and let those oils run across your tongue. Then that transition to mid palate, that might be the main event, but darn, this finish is killer too. Mid palate, all of those flavors that were initially up front do escalate. So getting more of the grape, getting more of that creme brulee, but then it's getting balanced by all those darker notes that I mentioned on the nose. So the oak shines through, some toffee shines through. There's a note though that I particularly get that I would describe as chocolate covered honeycomb. So playing off that honey, but there is a local candy shop in my hometown that does chocolate covered honeycomb. And I snapped right to that memory each time I taste this. So then on the finish, I mean, there's a point in the finish where you think it's going to taper off, but instead it comes roaring back into this crescendo. The finish is truly where that Sauternes finish really takes center stage. And man, those grape flavors linger for quite some time, almost to the point where you could probably sit there and enjoy those grape flavors for like a solid 2 minutes. I mean, it's essentially as long as you want to enjoy it, just let those flavors ride and they don't leave you. But they are balanced by that oak and what I would describe as that chocolate covered honeycomb. Man, gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. Thank you, Jonathan, for giving us the opportunity to bring this back to the community. So as people get their hands on this one, I do want to see tasting notes in the comments or get with me on what you think of this one. But come back to this video, walk through it with me. Let me know what you agree with and what you disagree with. Now, because I am a maniac here and I love blending just like Jonathan, I did have a crazy idea and I decided I was going to keep that idea until we got to do this whole experience together. So why don't we create a K-Luke cigar blend while we're at it? I mean, I got a little bit in here. Why not do a little blend? I'm going to do zero measurement on this. We're just going to wing it. But I'm going to put in a little bit of the Madeira that I have, a little bit of the Armagnac. I actually have to decide whether to buy a backup of this bottle or not. I'm running low. And then to cap it off, why not put in some of the 2024 Keenan Reserve? So this was a cab finish. So we'll blend all of these together. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to go through the little bit of a tasting here live with you. And then I'll put it to the side so I can enjoy this one later. But yes, I don't care how much it costs. I'm not precious about whiskey. Everything is fair game for blending. Have fun with your whiskey while you have it, people. All right, so let's see if this blend works, and then we'll go to the second half of today's video. Cheers, everybody. And if you made it through this far, hit that like and subscribe for me. I should probably said that earlier in the video, but yeah, hit the like and subscribe. And if you stuck with us, come on. We are doing nonstop barrel picks, blind flights, having all types of fun. Man, tell you what, the color on that got gorgeous. Look at that. All right, let's see if it blends. Cheers, everybody. Oh my gosh, that's really good. It's a darker profile and a sweeter profile than the Sauternes on its own. I am getting hit by grape in so many different angles here. It's actually kind of hard to talk through it. I am puckering everywhere. Sweetness was definitely dialed up like 10 degrees though. Still kind of the similar flavor notes though when it comes to some of that creme brulee and that honey I was talking about. But the sugar on top, that char on that creme brulee is almost like straight rock candy to me right now. And all those finishes dance together too, man. Ooh, that's gonna be a fun one. I'm gonna let that one sit and air out for a little bit before I re-go to it. But hey, if you got a couple of K. Luke single barrel finishes, hey, have some fun with them. Trust me, just a little bit, you know, little 10 milliliters here or there. Nothing hurts blending these things. All right, before we get into batch 14, I need to take a little bit of a break, rinse out, give this one the best palate I can give it as we break down the tasting notes. So while I reset, please listen to this message from some of our best whiskey friends ever. You might hear about drifting drams from our barrel picks, but not only do they know whiskey, they know coffee even better. Katie and Ethan are always bringing in the best coffee they can for this community. And if you enjoy coffee or you are curious about getting into good coffee, you need to check out Drifting Drams. Fancy coffee for regular people. So check out their website to support a small business that is passionate about what they produce. And they will forever change the way that you look at coffee. All right, let's get into K. Luke here. This one is going to be batch 14 of the bourbon, coming in at 117.2 proof. Still a blend of Indiana and Kentucky bourbons. And I did get a little write-up on this one too. What's interesting on this one, and maybe I'm just not asking enough questions, this actually says bourbon in this blend aged 8 to 12 years. I honestly think that's the first time I've seen an age statement on a K. Luke. So keep me honest on that, Jonathan. It's a 10-barrel blend, and there were almost 1,600 bottles in this blend as well. I need to not look at that paper anymore. There were tasting notes on that thing. I need to avoid any bias that I can. All right, brush crack. Cork pops on a twist off aren't as impressive, right? All right, let's pour some in here. We're going to use the bulb glass just like we did on the prior sample. And I'm excited to get into this. The batches do seem to be accelerating in release. Hopefully that is a great thing for K. Luke. But I think just a few weeks or months ago, I did a review on the Bourbon Batch 12, which is by far my favorite of all the batches. And I've personally bought 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. But something about 12, with its darker notes getting into some oak and leather and things, oh man, that really got me. So what's important for me on this tasting that we're about to go through is I know that in our end of year tournament, I am going to nominate a K. Luke to take place in that bracket. I think batch 12 is the one I'm going to go with, but we'll see. Maybe batch 14 takes its place, which case I'll then have to find a batch 14 because in order to be in the tournament, I have to buy it with my own money. It can't be something that is a media sample. So just as we did before, we're going to start with the nose and then we'll go through the palate. But on this one, we'll go through the final score. All right, cheers everybody. Let's get through another K. Luke here. On the nose, this one's a little brighter than what I recall from batch 12. We'll do a comparison here at the end because, I just need to throw in more comparison and blends throughout this. But the bright notes come from what I would describe as a honey graham cracker, and there's also some orange zest on this as well. But then that's all balanced by a darker profile too. There's chocolate, and there's even a little hint of cherry. And then even still, as I let this play out, I get some toffee notes. So I'm seeing even similarities on some of the things that I called out on the prior tasting with the Sauterne finish, like the underlying layer has some similarities to it. The amount of citrus and the orange coming off of this one, though, is quite surprising. It actually, in my mind, makes it distinct against my imprint and memory of some of the other batches. There's also that spiciness coming from the barrel and the char. I'm thinking about it in terms of more like a black pepper than it is a distinct oak, but it's definitely got that darker oak influence to it. Kelsey says it a lot, like barrel spice. It would be like a distinct description from baking spice, if that makes any sense. Well, the nose certainly has my attention here. Now we're going to get into the palate, and man, even before we get into it, yet again, I mean, look at how oily this thing is. I mean, I think it's one of those things that we appreciate most from K. Luke. I feel like Jonathan has a lot of the same sensibilities as we do. That's why we keep falling in love with so much of his work. Man, that really, really impressed me up front there. The graham cracker came shining through, that honey graham cracker, but then it was really the fruits that we're getting into. Orange continues to be a play on this one, but then the chocolate and that cherry play through. I started thinking specifically there's a cherry blossom flavored LaCroix, and it gave me those type of flavor notes up front, where it's almost this mixture of that cherry blossom and the chocolate. That's where my mind sprung to immediately. And it's fun too, because I've never given anything that note before. Man, this one's fun. The transition to mid palate shows you the underlying oak that's there, but it mostly remains bright with that cherry blossom and that orange zest. But then you get the chocolate lava cake. In the tasting notes of that paper, I tried not to bias me. It did say German chocolate cake on it. Totally understand the angle. There's that toffee there again, too, just like I called out on the Sauternes finish. Boy, that is fun. We're going to talk about the finish here, too, but I've been having a hard time trying to talk through this finish. It's actually been the most intense part of it. Man, really makes it hard to talk through it because I'm experiencing so many different flavors in so many different areas, and it's really making me salivate, too. Man, shoot. This tasting's getting better and better as I'm going through this. I'm looking forward to comparing it to batch 12 head to head. I still think I'm going to prefer the oak and the leather on 12, but this is getting strong too. Man, this finish on this thing is gorgeous as well. I think the finish is the highlight of the pour, but it is the combined elements of everything that we talked through thus far coming together and then continuing to escalate. Again, there's a lot of similarities between this tasting that we're doing now and the tasting that occurred with the single barrel when it comes to the underlying bourbon elements, discounting the grape and everything that came from the Sauternes. But on this one, I continue to get that cherry blossom, orange zest combination. The chocolate cake continues to play through. What happened on this one, though, and it's kind of the same way that it had that crescendo on the single barrel, I went right back to more of the custard and the creme brulee notes, like a chocolate decadent dessert next to some creme brulee. Man, so it's really sticking out with me in the moment. We're going to do a comparison to batch 12. We've got to at this point. Gosh darn it. So here on the channel, we do have a robust scoring system comprised of a flavor score, experience score, and a value score. Aggregate those 10 metrics behind the scenes all together, and you can figure out how this whiskey compares to other whiskeys. And lo and behold, this one came in at an 88, which I just checked on the spreadsheet is the exact same place that batch 12 came in. It got there in a different way, though. I'm going to have to do a head-to-head to see which one of these I truly like better. But this one really did win me over the course of the tasting, where every single sip got some more depth and the flavor notes just stuck out with me more and more. But this one is the cherry blossom, the orange zest, the chocolate cake, a little bit of that graham cracker. It still gives a little bit of that custard note with that creme brulee. I honestly don't know if this one's going to beat batch 12, though, head to head. Regardless of that, clearly I'm going to buy a batch 14 whenever I find it. So add one more K. Luke to the shelf. Man, I mean, one of these has to make it into the end of the year tournament here. Let's pour a little bit of batch 12. Man, this has been an insane tasting. If you're still with me at the end of this video here, it's been 55 minutes in my time. But this is crazy so far. One thing that I wonder what's occurring before we even do this comparison, though, I feel like these blends are getting better and better. And it just makes me wonder if Jonathan's stocks are getting better too, especially with some of these age statements, with him saying it's between 8 to 12 years. But it does feel like one of my favorite blenders has gotten more colors in his palette to paint with. And this series of the 2025 blends, they have been special, especially in the same year that I'm giving up on ECBP and Remus. Oh, the Remus 9. I haven't even talked about that one publicly yet, but giving up on that one too. I'm just all in on these K. Luke blends. I'll just keep following K. Luke. All right, so we got the batch 12. We got the batch 14. I got to figure out which one's going to go into our end of year tournament. Though I'll have to find a 14 if I like the 14 better. So that complicates things. On the nose, going back and forth, though I don't have another bulb glass to do this legitimately here. So this is an unsanctioned bout. The batch 14 does win on the nose. that honey graham cracker combined with that little bit of cherry and that orange zest really takes it home for me. This one's got more of a peach apricot-y stone fruit by comparison. But then it's also got like a darker oak and leather profile. So I actually do prefer the sweeter, brighter nose compared to what's going on with batch 12. All right, let's see what batch 12's got going on the taste by comparison. Cheers, everybody, especially if you've hung with me this far. Yeah, batch 12. Oh, the cherry on batch 12 is so good. Shoot, there are a lot of similarities here. Whew. The honey and the cherry are significantly dialed up compared to batch 14. And then the oak, the baking spices, and the leather that I was talking about appear more on 12 as well. But gosh, this is actually an impossible comparison here. I scored these equally and I love them equally for different reasons. Crap. The darker, spicier profile of 12 continues to shine through, particularly on the finish. Son of a gun. Now we got batch 14, which is delicious and just brighter and more citrus leaning and more of that custard and cakiness. Man, those are two totally different profiles. I love it so much that I can't decide. And I hate it so much that I can't decide because I got to pick one of these to go into our tournament. Unless I put two on our tournament, that just feels like stacking the deck though. Man, I think I'm still leaning towards 12, but that is a tough battle. So the main winner of this, of course, is me because I can't decide between the batches. So thank you for that, Jonathan. You've put me through a loop today, but a very, very good one. So there's one thing left to do. Let's blend these both together and let's see how batch 13 nets out. I actually haven't had batch 13 yet. I jumped to 14. As I said, these batches are accelerating. Oh, holy crap. On the nose, these two batches play very, very well together. They have all the best characteristics of both of them. On the taste, I'm not sure that worked out, but I'll have to give them a little more time to mingle. But man, that nose made me really excited. It got peachy on the palate though. Well, that was a very unexpected meandering tasting. So if you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you very much for following along with us and loving the things that we love. I know we get deep into it. I know we get a little nerdy with it, but man, I really do enjoy exploring these type of tastings in detail. And this one again, Jonathan does this to me all the time. Like I love breaking down the individual components. And I only hope that when he watches this, he appreciates the way that we break it down too. So thank you for joining today, Whiskey Friends. Hey, be sure to get into our Facebook group, Patreon, Instagram, keep track of those single barrel releases that we are dropping. I think we're somewhere around like 23 different single barrel picks we've done in the last year and a half. It just keeps accelerating, but we keep finding great whiskey to bring back to this community. And just remember, while you can always find more whiskey, you can never have enough whiskey friends. So take care of those around you. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching. Hello again, whiskey friends, everybody. A big shout out to our amazing Patreon community. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't continue to produce the content and barrel picks week after week. And for everybody else out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.